Oh, you gotta be kidding me. An electric Jeep? An electric Jeep that's a Rubicon? A Rubicon Wrangler. 4xe. Here it is, folks. That plug-in hybrid Wrangler that you've been waiting for. Or is it? Yeah, it probably is. Stay with us. Rubicon, you're my little Rubicon. Well, not little, really. Welcome to the late afternoon. It's here in the autumn. It's supposed to almost be winter, and yet I'm out here in a t-shirt. You know, it's all about heading straight towards the sun until we all burn up, pretty much. That's what's really going on. There's no actual climate change where the earth has shifted gears and is heading towards the light like a big old moth. But anyway, it's a beautiful day out here and a nice day to look at this new Jeep. As you probably know, Stellantis, Chrysler, whatever they're calling themselves these days, they've had a lot of owners in the last 20 years. They haven't been real big on the whole hybrid thing. I'd say they're behind because they are, but they have done, if you remember the Chrysler Aspen SUV, which was kind of like a big Dakota, only nicer, it had a very mild hybrid system. But this new Jeep 4xe has a true hybrid system, and once more, what is this? What in the world? So Jeep people know everything about their Jeeps, right? Everything and then some. Well, my God, it's a plug. So it's not only a hybrid, it's a plug-in hybrid. So you got some batteries on here, which we'll suss out, find out where they are. And you also have an inline 4-cylinder engine displacing 2 liters that is turbocharged. So you got your turbocharger. Plus, oh wait, I'm leaving out something. Then it has its e-assist thingy that looks like a little supercharger. That isn't really a supercharger, but what it is a little electric assist that helps with starting when you have auto stop on and off. But also, since this is a hybrid, when the engine needs to start up after it's been running on battery only, which it can do, when it's plugged in, has a full charge, they say up to 22 miles or so. But anyway, it helps start the engine very quickly. Zip. So it's got, to say this thing is complicated is to say the truth. It's sophisticated, it's complex, but it's still, as they would say in an ad, it's still old Jeep. Now the thing about this particular, this is normally what they call the Unlimited, but I don't see it being called that. I think they're just calling it the 4-door. But something that's always fascinated me is how long the wheelbase is, which, God, I don't have my figures right with me. See, I think it's like 115 inches. But look at that, how long that is. Now, it's got excellent ground clearance and such, but I tell you what, if you really take a good look at this, man, it looks like it's just screaming to be high-centered. Now, driving it off-road, I haven't had any problems like that, but man, if you compare it to like the 2-door Jeep Wrangler, which is very nimble and has nothing in the way of this problem, I think you have to be a little careful depending on what kind of terrain you're driving on. It has being the Rubicon model, it has every other kind of thing under the planet to make it better off-road, including some serious gearing, front and rear manual locking differentials. It has the sway bar disconnect, which is the sway bar to help keep it from tipping over when you're driving it on the pavement, which for most, oh, hi, there I am. Do you see me? Hi there, how are you? It's designed to, the disconnect will allow the sway bar to go limp and free so that you get more front suspension articulation. In other words, droop. The front tires can actually add a little more travel that way because they're not being restricted by the sway bar. These have been around for a while. Various vehicles have had them. It's just giving you a little bit more because when you are driving off-road, it's important to try to keep your wheels actually on the ground. Highly recommended to do that. Here I am again. Hi, how are you? This is a late afternoon shot. There we go. I've left now. But this is a fun one, this Wrangler. It's also very expensive. You're looking at about $70,000 worth of truck. But we will go through all kinds of things on this vehicle because Jeeps may be a lot of things, but one thing they are absolutely and indisputably, and that's unique. Do I think they're the best vehicles in the world off-road? No. I think a horse is the best vehicle off-road personally, and maybe followed by a dirt bike or an ATV. But Jeep Wranglers do very well. That's what they're designed to do, and that's one of the reasons they're so popular with people is not even necessarily going off-road in them, but the idea that you can is big among the Jeep aficionados. And the fact that it's a very simple body-on-frame, you know, it's a school bus, basically, how it's built. And people love the fact that you can get about 1 billion accessories for one of these things. You can do anything to it, really. The aftermarket for Jeep Wranglers is extraordinary. Every aspect of the vehicle can be improved, changed, altered, whatever. You know, it's interesting, if you take a look at the hood on this thing, it has a bulge in it, which I think is, you see there? Can you see that little, I think what that is necessitated by all the goodies under the hood, which I bet you're curious about. Shall we have a look? Yeah, in just a minute, let me show you one other thing and then we'll get underneath there. Stand by. Ah, yes, the Rubicon package. The Rubicon package has so many good things for off-road driving, and one of the best, in my opinion, is the standard tires that come with it are BF Goodrich all-terrain TAs, the KO2s, which are extremely popular right now with so many of the off-road types. They really enjoy this particular thing. In this case, these are 17-inch wheels. And look at the little Jeep on there. Isn't that great, that little Jeep right there? Whee! It's got your 5 lugs on there instead of 6 like trucks do, and that means absolutely nothing really, but I just thought I would note it because things like the new Toyota Tundra has 6 lug wheels after having 5 lug wheels for the longest time. The other special thing about these tires is these are the LT rated instead of the standard metric rating. And what does that mean? Well, LT stands for light truck. So it's a bit of a heavier construction for off-road work and everything else. And I do believe, I don't see it offhand, I could be wrong about this, but I think they have the severe service snow rating too. So they rate as snow tires, I think. I can't see it right now due to the twilight, but let me tell you, that's a real nice tire on there, a real good tire. And that's a stock tire. And as we meander back, we could look at another much closer if you'd like, which is the spare that's mounted up nice and high here so you can remove it. Should you be, yep, there it is. There's the snowflake symbol there. So it is completely wonderfully rated for your snow duty. Look at these cameras right there. I thought there was 2 of them, but that's just the lug nut. You lug nut. This thing does have a couple of different lenses that when you're backing up you can switch back and forth, which is nice. But anyway, the spare tire being on the back like this is great because if you're off-road, it's really super easy to get to. Are there any downsides to having it out here? Well, there's one, and that's the entire design of the rear. You can't have a lift gate on this vehicle because these things weigh about 7 million pounds. So in order to do that, you know, what you got to do is you got to have a swing out door like this with hinges on it that's heavy enough to hold that. And if you want the full cargo experience, then you lift this little thing up here. This is for people that, you know, any Jeep people watching this review, they know all this. They sit there and mumble it in their sleep. You know, they know everything about the Jeep. But if you're not familiar with the Wrangler, that's their way, man. That's their way. So in here we have a fair amount of cargo room here, not bad. I sure have a lot of crap in here, don't I? This right here, we'll get some use out of this. Contained within is our charging cable. And I showed you where it goes in, and here's the cable itself. So that is just sitting right here. Now this here is a bag to do, I have no idea what the heck this is for. It's to put something, maybe the doors. You can take the doors off. I will discuss that later, because I think that's a wonderfully useless feature, especially if you actually go take your vehicle on the beach or off-road. But I'll explain that later. And we have the massive roll bar and the roll cage that goes all the way through here. And you got your, it looks more like an 80-20 split to your back seats to increase your cargo room. So it has a pretty fair amount of cargo room in it. You got to remember, it's a narrow vehicle, but it's long fore to aft, as I showed you with that long wheelbase. So that's where the room is, front to back, but side to side, it's not great in terms of passenger room. It doesn't feel, it feels cozy. It's not like it's cramped, but it's a Jeep. And this top, I'm sure you can take this top off if you want. And what we have on this is the optional power operated soft top, you see, which I'll show at some point, where you can open that up. That's nice. The Jeep people love the open air experience, and they get it in abundance in this particular vehicle. And you got to remember, when you're going to shut up the back, this goes down first, and this goes then. And if you do it any other way, you're asking for a living hell of trouble, boy. You're not going to be able to shut it. All right, well, let's do this. Now, if you're not familiar with Jeeps, again, I know a lot of you have probably owned 16 of them in the last 5 years, but the hood on the Jeep Wrangler is different than any other vehicle that I'm aware of anyway. And in order to get in the thing, there is no inside latch or lock at all. You pop this loose here. Over here, you pop this one loose, like so. Then you reach underneath here and you find your catch. A little catch, there you go. Then you open this up, pop this out, and there you go. Now, that's nice, right? But there is no way to lock the hood in a stock form, none. So what you got is somebody that can easily walk off with your battery, and they don't even have to get into the car or anything else. Maybe there's an alarm on this thing that will trigger if the hood's open, maybe so. But I've never understood the logic of keeping this particular system, because I know of no advantage to it. If you know an advantage to it, let me know, and I'll ignore what you say, but I think that's just a weird way to do stuff. So here we are, behold, 2 liters, inline 4, not transverse, by the way. It runs this way instead of this way. That's how we run things. And on the left side, we have our injection side. And over here on the right side, hello camera shadow, we have our turbo. And there's the cool side and there's the hot side. Exhaust manifolds this way. Here's your air coming in. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's done differently than most people. It's just a 2-liter engine. It's not a very big engine, but man, is it crammed in here. So we have that, and then we have your hybrid system. But before I get there, allow me to wax poetic about what you got in here. You got your 2-liter turbo 4, and it puts out 270 horsepower at 5,250 RPMs. Torque, 295 pounds of feet at 3,000 RPMs. But wait, Then we have a traction motor, the main motor, which also assists in your propulsion and can power the vehicle by itself under the right circumstances, especially after it's been plugged in and all charged up. And what do we get with that? Well, that motor is, it's powered incidentally by a 17.3 kilowatt lithium-ion battery, but that motor puts out 134 horsepower and 181 foot-pounds of torque. And that's from 0 all the way up. That's the beauty of an electric motor, is they make their torque from the very bottom all the way up. So the total system horsepower comes to a whopping 375 horsepower at 5250 RPMs and 470 foot-pounds or pounds of feet at 3000 RPMs in your torque department. So that's impressive. Very impressive numbers. And it feels, it's like most hybrids, it's always switching on and off, and under certain circumstances it's really quite remarkable, because this is the first time I am familiar with a Chrysler/Stellantis product that is a true full hybrid. They've had some mild hybrids in the past, but this one's the real deal in the hybrid department. And we'll have to see what that does for fuel economy, but power delivery and stuff is very, very good. But boy, is this complicated. And then I'm leaving out a completely other thing. It's called a e-torque something or other, but it is it's a little generator that's powered off a big wide belt, which I believe is down there. I don't think you can see. I'll run into trouble with this particular rig. But it powers, it's an electric assist that especially is there to start the engine instead of a conventional starter, so it starts up the engine extremely quickly and efficiently. I think it actually adds a little bit of electricity or torque at lower RPMs, but it's the system that you can also get on the Ram 1500 and probably some other vehicles that Chrysler makes. But so you got all that going on. You got your turbocharger, you got your hybrid system, you got your e-torque, and you got this great little blanket around the battery, the 12 volt. It has a 12 volt battery too, of course. So that's why this thing is packed tighter than well, it's just packed tight. I could get in all kinds of trouble with my various analogies that would be inappropriate. But it's interesting, and there's that little bulge in the hood I was talking about earlier is right there, and I think it's just because of the top of this thing. It's kind of tall, this engine, but it again, instead of running it transversely, side to side, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's where your cylinders are. And turbochargers and stuff on the driver's side and intake on the passenger side. And what kind of oil do we use? Well, Boots, let's have a look. Hang on, does it tell me? It says SAE 5W30. Huh, see there? Wow, 530, that's an interesting flavor. I'm not real familiar with 530. You guys know about 530? What else uses 530? I care about such things because when you go into your Wally World and you try to get some oil to change your oil, you want to be able to find it. And I find more and more, it's like with the Toyota Dynamic Force engines, they use 0-16 weight oil. Very important that you use that too. And a lot of places don't carry it yet. I don't know why, because there's already a zillion of those engines on the road. But that's what we have there. So, do you enjoy this packaging? Do you think this is worth all the complexity? Well, we'll find out. We'll drive it. We'll see. We'll get there. We'll go off-road with it. We'll go on-road with it. We'll just drive it. We'll see. Stay with us. You know, this hybrid living is kind of nice because you don't have all the noise that you normally have with a internal combustion engine, although this one could fire up at any moment as it deems necessary. But as we're out here in nature, It's really nice to have a nice quiet experience. It's especially nice if you happen to live out here in nature. And it keeps all the bugs away, you know what I mean? As in Volkswagens, things like that. Much quieter and much easier to negotiate when you can concentrate on everything. The best thing of all is it's not polluting anything and not burning up any fuel. So there you go. Come and enjoy this Jeep with me. Well, here we have our the interior of our Wrangler 4 XE. And here we have a refreshing sight. We have completely analog instrumentation. You're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff on a Jeep because they're trying to, as much as possible, adhere to a tradition. And that's a good tradition to adhere to, in my view. But it also has a massive central computer as far as a massive information centra. And boy, this particular one has a lot of stuff on it. Now, one of the most important to me is right up there, as you can see that. That is your how much battery you have left. And I've just plugged this plug-in hybrid in and charged it for days. Well, no, overnight. And it now has 98%. And it's telling me it has a all battery range of 38.3 miles. And to which I say, no, I don't think it's 38. I think it's closer to 20 personally. But then the gas thing says 19.8 miles. So what does that mean? Well, what I'm looking at has nothing to do with the range. 26 miles over here is your actual range for your electric. What that is, it's telling me so far how many miles I have driven on all electric power and how many miles I've driven on all gas, I guess. Or maybe a mixture of the two. Anyway, my total mileage for this trip meter that I've had since I've had the vehicle is 58.1 miles. So it's that's, you know, impressively biased to the electrical side, which is good. It's saying my overall miles per gallon has been 30.3, which is also very impressive. And like I say, on the right, a total range of 260 miles, which that's weird to me because, well, let's put it this way. I think you ought to get at least 300 to 400 miles out of a hybrid, but who knows? The tank on this vehicle is definitely smaller than a lot of others. And, you know, they always have to balance that because when you have a hybrid, you have to have room for things like the hybrid drivetrain, the battery, and everything else. That takes up some space. And they can usually, and they're also, not in the case of this Jeep, I don't think, but in the case of a lot of hybrid cars, they're trying to keep the weight down as well. So they have to calculate, well, what's a realistic size for the gas tank? Because every gallon of gas weighs 8 pounds or whatever. So anyway, that's what the range is according to them. And I don't know. Can you trust computers? I don't know. But anyway, we can go into other settings here. This is hybrid info. That's a range of 26 miles and then range of, yeah, it's saying 234 on gas and then total range of 260 miles. And that's with, how much gas have I used? Well, let's see. Where's the gas gauge? And it's kind of difficult to read because it's this green here. That's full up there. So I haven't used it's not quite full, but it's nearly full. So there you go. Think of that what you want. Range to empty is this particular category. And then we have trip info A. Jimmy Buffett, one particular harbor. That's what's playing on SM radio. There are no stored messages. And then there's screen setup. And then you have your digital speedo mom. But yeah, I like this one over here, this analog one. That's much better for me. And then we have our tire pressure. And then we have, this is fun. This is our off-road drivetrain situation, and it's now telling me that the front sway bar is connected. In a moment, I will show you how you disconnect it because there's a button to do that. And here's our energy economy. Our average is 20.9 miles per gallon. And I guess that's over the life of the vehicle. so far, which is only 1,722 miles. So I have no idea if that's what that actually is, but if it is, you'd expect better out of a hybrid, but that's what we get nowadays with hybrid trucks. You know, that's just, there you go. So, and arranged empty, where's trip A? There we go, so we're back where we were. So that's all that. It's very easy to read. It's very military, World War II looking. Actually, no, it's more modern than that, but it definitely, like I said, everything about Jeep Wranglers is roots, roots, roots. They're real into that, and so let me do this here. I'm gonna open this roof, so maybe we'll get a little more light in here. There we go, dude. Whee, bye. Oh, isn't it beautiful? It's a panorama situation. Now we have more light in here. Isn't that great? Now look at all the switch gear you have to play with. It's marvelous, really. One of my, well, here's our Uconnect thing, our central screen, and I'd say it's a very good size for the interior size of this vehicle. It's pretty much spot on. And it has all your basic settings down here for all these different things. Control's an interesting one because you can put your backup camera on, or you can put your front camera on right there, which I prefer. There you go. These are your front recovery hooks right there, so that's your front bumper. I kind of wish it was biased more to the side because I was doing some maneuvering where I really needed to see. If we turn our wheel, look at there. Wow, isn't it nice? You can tell you where you're gonna go. So if you put it there, you're gonna run right in that tree. But if you put it there, you go around the tree. You see, that's according to that. Anyway, but that's kind of cool. I like that. Very useful. And here we come down to our climate control, and we also have good old-fashioned radio knob, volume and off and on. And here's your browse, enter, scroll, tune. You know, conventional stuff that never should go away in my view because it's so easy and convenient to find. And then you have all your climate control here, including your automatic setting. And where is your, I'm sure we have a mode here somewhere. Well, first of all, you got your rear defroster, your front defroster, steering wheel heat, seat heat, kind of a split defroster mode there, recirculation, all that good stuff is there. Now, I'm going to come down to a very important one because I completely was, as I drive around in this thing, you're going to hear me complain about the, well, not really complain, but just comment on how unbelievably stiff the regenerative braking is on this Jeep Wrangler. And the reason it was so stiff is this button right here, because this button is the maximum amount of engine regen. You turn it off, and max regeneration is now off. So it would feel much more like a regular conventional car, but you won't get as much battery charging when you're coasting or putting on the brakes. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it on because I need that. I want that regenerative ability, although on this plug-in hybrid, I really don't think it's that big a deal. I don't know. I'm not, once you run out of juice, you pretty much run out of juice with this thing as far as the electric side is concerned. But anyway, this is I believe this is our downhill, select speed shift. Yeah, this is what we use as kind of a crawl control thing, which we'll look at more elaborately in a minute. Now, as we go down south here's your 12 volt. Here's your media, which is both USB and USB-C and auxiliary. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I love that. These are your window controls in the middle of the console here in the center stack. Now, why is that? Well, I think it has something to do with the fact that you can take the doors off. It's incredibly inconvenient not to have it on the door, but you know, you got to be able to take those doors off or it's not a Jeep, right? It's not a Wrangler. So there you go, they do that. Here we have our locking differentials. You can lock the rear by itself, and then you can kick it up and lock both the front and rear for very, very difficult going. Here's your sway bar control. You push that. Most of this, incidentally, will not. Oh, it's flashing now. That's good. Sway bar disconnect in process. Wow, it takes a while. Still blinking. Still blinking. Are you still in progress? See, a lot of these settings don't actually work unless you're in four-wheel drive low. I don't know what it's doing. It's still blinking. Well, let's turn it off. There. Uh-oh. Sway bar connect in progress. There, it's now connected. But as I mentioned, when I drive this thing, it allows it basically allows for the live front axle to pivot more and drop more for more travel when you're traveling off-road, so you'll get better traction that way. Then we have a generous assortment of auxiliary switches right here, because if you have a Jeep Wrangler, you're naturally going to have a bunch of accessories on there, lights and winches and whatever. So that's to help you wire that stuff up and have easy access to it, which is nice. That's very convenient. Now then, we move here. We got our conventional shifter right there, and on this conventional shifter, it's a typical situation when you go to drive and you kick it over for your manual setting, and as you can hear, the engine just kicked on because it thinks I'm about to do something, but otherwise it was sitting there on battery power only. You go back to drive, and you go back to park. In a minute, I bet the engine will probably shut down. But anyway, next to that is our four-wheel drive selector. Now, this is interesting because it is about as versatile as you can get. You have a four-wheel drive auto mode, which is what I've been in. I'm going to put it back in two-wheel drive simply because I don't need four-wheel drive automatic because the rain has stopped, it's drying out, and I'll get better mileage if I use the good old just two-wheel drive. I don't need to be turning that front axle right now. But then you can put in four-wheel drive automatic, which will activate the front wheels as necessary. And then four-wheel high, it says part-time. Well, what that essentially means is you have your four wheels are being driven, but they're locked up, so you don't want to do it on completely. There, the engine just shut off. You don't want to do that when you're on dry pavement because there'll be a binding effect because the front and rear axles will be traveling at the same speed, and they actually need to travel a different speed when your front wheels are turned because they're moving at a different speed than the rear axle is, and you don't want that. Then you got your neutral. Neutral you can use for all kinds of different things. It's actually good. It completely decouples the drivetrain so that you can just, it can help you in stuck situations if your transmission's knackered. All kinds of different things. You can use power takeoffs then if you have a power takeoff put on this thing somehow, and Bob's your uncle. Then of course is our favorite four-wheel drive low, which is where you do your rock crawling, and I think the ratio is I don't know what the exact numbers right off the bat, but it's outrageously high, so you can pretty much crawl up the side of a mountain should you desire. Look there, we got a little Jeep logo on there in case you forget, you know. And then we have another blast from the past that is well appreciated, and that's your handbrake. Yeah, cool. And then we go further back and we have our little console here, and then we open it up and you have a top tray for all kinds of things, and then you can take this and fold it up, and then you got more stuff down here. Now I gotta show you this. This is great right here. I love this. Open this up and you got a little tool, and some very high quality looking tools. Now what are those for? Well, more than anything else, they're for taking stuff off the car like doors, tops, things like that. They all use the same basic type of bit to remove all these things if you want to do that. So there's your tools. Comes with the car. That's nice. And over here, I love this too. When you get really, when you're starting to just really get after it off road, and the vehicle is doing all kinds of things like this, your passenger can grab hold of there and be secure. You want that. And then there and there, and there's lots of holes here. And naturally, you are surrounded by a roll cage. It's well concealed inside this plastic stuff here. But these things are designed to be very safe if they roll over, because you're off-road and you might do that. and you're on road and you might do that. So incidentally, it says, I talk about removing the doors on this thing. It says very clearly in the owner's manual not to do that if you're on the road. Leave the doors on if you're on the road. Okay, now let's open this up real quick. Now, I've complained in the past, a lot of times all you had was this thing to keep the door from, there was nothing to keep the door if you're on a hill from coming back and hitting you in the leg and making you scream out in pain. But this has these wonderful little, what I call a standard door hinge detent, which most cars have. so that there is, it actually keeps the door open a little better than it did in the past, considerably better than it did in the past. Something else that's weird though, if you want to recline the seat, that's the recliner, it's this little strap. Now why did they do a strap instead of something like this? This is for your lumbar, by the way. And this is for up and down and up and down, and then of course you can slide back and forth. $70,000, but of course not. It doesn't have any electric seats in it because you're supposed to be able to hose out your Jeep. It's part of the Jeep way, and you got your drains and everything else to do that. And they probably don't think it's the world's best idea to hose out your car when you have electric seats. You know what I'm saying? There's wiring down there, so there ain't no wiring down there. I don't know if that's across the board with Wranglers or not. I have no earthly. But there you go. Now let's go to the back seat. Shut up. The seat, the rear doors on this thing are not exactly huge. And getting in and out is not exactly comfortable. And you got to watch your head because you got this aforementioned roll cage. And you got speakers here, big speakers, which is nice. And you got map lights, which is really nice. And you have a decent amount of leg room, not a whole lot. I got to flip the headrest up. And so it's okay back here, but I find it a bit claustrophobic. And you got your handhold, and you got, it's kind of cave-like. And some people will like that and some people won't. And that's why that's why you take the doors off. Yeah, okay. But it'll suffice for, you can get two people back here comfortably. There's very little in the way of drive shaft tunnel because the body is mounted so high up on the frame that it's not an issue. That's good, that's nice. That's worth keeping. And then we have our ultimate test. This may be one of the world's higher armrests, but it's all right. It's not bad. It's kind of short, but it works. You got an armrest. Armrest is beautiful. Don't ever poo-poo the armrest ever. At least they gave you one, right? And again, your doors, your up or downer. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Doesn't appear to be functioning. I must have it locked somewhere. Why don't you work? We also have, look at how the generous number of connectors for your USB and USB-C. That's very nice. And I don't know why, I'm assuming that I've just got the windows are turned off. I'm looking, let's look up there. Oh, sorry, look in the middle. There it is. Now here's our lock. There we go. It was on lock, I do think. I reckon. What you reckon? There you go. They go all the way down, and they go all the way up. You see, I knew that this Jeep wasn't failing me. It was just turned off. Here we have some very nice ventilators for your ventilation pleasure. And there you go. And the seat backs, excuse me, there is. Getting in and out of these things is always interesting, but this particular Jeep doesn't have any kind of side rails, and there's about 10 million different side rails you can get for it, including ones that are help you protect you from rocks. And if you're going to do here we go. We do that, and look at there. We do that, and there we fold flat to increase our cargo area, which they say, I think it's 72 cubic feet when everything is folded down. I have a hard time believing that, actually. It doesn't seem that big to me, but that's me, Mr. Skeptic. And this is in fact fiberglass, but out here, you look at it from out here and I swear it looks like it's metal. It all looks like it's metal. But this part, the side at least, is completely made out of fiberglass. And there's, you can see the massive flying buttress that is the roll cage. So there you go. Ha! Okay. If you do that again, I swear I'm going to turn you off. I'm going to turn you off. Oh, more switches that are important. Sorry. Now we're back in the front again. Hybrid. That's what we're on right now. Oops, sorry. Hybrid here. Okay. Electric. Now when we put it on electric, it's going to bias to try to run as long as it possibly can just on electric power. Hybrid, of course, it's going to be more normal. It's going to run both gas and electric as it sees fit. Now this one, eSave, that's very clever in that it will just run off the engine at that point and save the battery for I don't know what exactly, but it's there to save the battery by just running on. I guess if you want to, let's say you want to go to that national park and you're going to drive there, so you drive in the gas mode, then when you get to the national park, you're going to go in and out, and let's say it's in and out is going to be 18 miles, but you want to do all that in electric mode, you can do that by just turning that thing off. Although right now I would have thought the moment I hit that, since the engine's on, we would have the engine running right now, because we're already down to 93% just sitting here. So let's see. What happens when I put it in reverse? Let's see together. Let us examine it. I'm in reverse, and like most hybrids, it's going to be all electric in reverse. We're backing up now. Hang on there. Hang on. Got to get between them trees there. There we go. There we go. Now, when I put it in the drive on eSave, it should immediately start the engine. It's not. It's not using the engine at all. Well, I have to go back and reread that because I thought that's what that was for. I shouldn't be running on electric power right now. Maybe it does it if it's over 90%. We're now down to 92%. Isn't that weird? Well, maybe the proper way of referring to it is it reduces the amount that you run on electric, but does not eliminate it. I thought it stopped it completely and ran 100% on the turbocharged inline-4 engine, which has plenty of, power to get you to wherever you're going. I mean, you can get a Jeep just with it, without the battery assist. Okay, well, the engine still hasn't come on. I think it's trying to make a fool out of me. And it's so easy. Even this mere machine made in Toledo with I think it's got a Mexican engine and a transmission from India or something like that, but it's just making a fool of me. It's making a fool of me. Yeah, well, the engine hasn't come on yet, so I don't know what that eSave's for. There we go. These things will vex you. I'm going to put it back on hybrid because that's what I wanted on anyway. But that's what those buttons do or don't do. That was fun. I wonder if I drove down my driveway, it would probably... I don't know. I'm confused by that, to tell you the honest truth. I'll refer to it later, and maybe I'll have an explanation. I probably won't. But let's just together say for what we believe to be true, that it will reduce the amount of electric use and increase the amount of gasoline engine use in order to conserve battery power. All right? Anything else you want to see? I think you've seen everything. Everything. Oh, well, naturally, this is all, your cruise control is pretty much standard fare. There is no adaptive cruise control in this Jeep. This is what I use to navigate that center screen right there. And your windshield wipers are over here, and I find them, instead of going up and down, that's you can do it for single. But the rest of it is handled by twisting this. Now, why is that two different things? I don't know what they're thinking when they do that. But again, it's got to be Jeep. It's got to be different. And back in World War II, that's the way they had. I don't even know how they. I bet they had a toggle switch back in World War II if you had a Jeep that actually had windshield wipers on it. This you can still fold the windshield forward, I believe, but I think it's an incredibly involved process. And I can't imagine why you'd want to do that, because the way the thing is situated, you used to sit in the original Jeeps in World War II, you used to sit much lower. The overall belt line was lower so that you side up much higher, and moving the windshield down was actually for a lot of different reasons, mainly ventilation, because you were just putting along in a convoy that's going like 7-8 miles an hour, and the ventilation would be much better and you could see better. But anyway, I'm not a Jeep historical authority, so I'm sure somebody on the internet could tell you everything you want to know about the original Willys Jeep and then some. So, all right, enough of this. Let's go driving or do something with it, okay? We'll do that. Cranked up for you now that the thing is open. The panoramic moon roof. That's not a panoramic moon roof. It's just it's a convertible top, sort of. It's really interesting, this top. I'm fascinated by this top because I thought this top was metal, and as near as I can tell, it isn't. It's actually fiberglass, but it sure as hell looks like metal. But fiberglass would make so much more sense because it's lighter. And you want anything above the belt line on this vehicle as light as possible to keep reducing the effects of top heaviness. You don't want your top heaviness causing a lot of trouble. They'll say, whoa, wait, oh, drive the car, idiot. Whoa, wait. I don't understand. There we go. You know, it's just now dawned on me. Oh, here we go. Never mind, no dawning. There's the map. There we go. That's what I was looking for. It just doesn't have a dedicated map button, which I wish it would, but you know. A lot of people just think Chrysler does such a great job with their visual stuff on their displays, and I do not share this enthusiasm. I find them potentially very complicated. Isn't that pretty when the sun's going down late in the afternoon and you just drive along in your Jeep 4xe? Hear the birds? See? Now that's not lively forest generated by the sound system on the Genesis G90. That was an actual bird. Which is what the Jeep experience is all about. You know, it's all about getting back to nature and driving all over nature and tearing up nature and burning fossil fuels in nature. Of course, you can put this on all electric and when the battery is fully charged and do not disturb nature, but I'm not sure how long that'll last before you'll have to fire up the gas engine will fire itself up, actually. But it's a step in the right direction, that's for sure. Alrighty then. Let's have a look underneath here. If you can see what we got going on with our live axle setup. Well, as you can see, we have a typical, we have a lower control arm. And if you crawl way up in here, there's an upper control arm up in there somewhere. I can't quite see it at the moment. I have trouble finding it on this vehicle, but it's there. And then you have a really stout anti-sway bar for your anti-swaying activities. And then you can see the electronics we have plugged into our rear differential for our locking differential feature, which is good. And you got your nice stout frame here. And it's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's this is the kind of rear axle that Jeeps have had for nigh on a century. Well, no, not near that long, but they haven't been around that long. But years ago, they went from a leaf spring setup back here to these big stout coils, which benefit in a number of ways off-road, especially in terms of ride quality. Does a real nice job with that. And otherwise, that's the best thing about Jeeps, is they're solid and traditional and real easy to follow your way around here. Now, what do we have over here? Well, I believe that is either our battery or our fuel tank. If you take a good look at it, it's well armored. And over on the other side, this would be your battery actually, which is over on your driver's side, because you can see the various things in there that allow you to be electric. And it is also really, really stout and well protected all through here. So you're in good shape. And then you have the drive shaft, and well, you know your way around all that, don't you? You're a Jeep person. So excellent ground clearance, very, very good protection for all the components, good solid construction. There you go, that's your Jeep. Not the most sophisticated thing in the world on the road, as you will discover the first time you drive it on the road, but off-road, it's a real nice setup. Well, hello there. There's part of your front suspension right there with your big old tall coil spring. And the shock absorber does not go down the middle of the coil spring, as you can see. Instead, there's a bump stop there. And the front shock absorber is located behind, directly, you can't see it here, but it's directly behind that coil spring. And let's get underneath here, have us a look. This is a massive, massive steering stabilizer right here. It's here's part of your sway bar system. And no, wait a minute, that can't be the sway bar system. Hey, excuse me, are you the sway bar system? How do you do? My name's Boots. Nice to meet you. But here we have, oh, okay, here we go. Now up here, right here, that is your sway bar. And, no, wait, that's your steering. Well, I'm working on it, hang on. Yeah, that looks like your steering arm. Yes, it is. All right, that's the steering arm. This would be your sway bar, but how does your sway bar disconnect if that's the sway bar? That can't be the sway bar. So, I'm at a loss to explain what I'm looking at here. Well, I'm no good at this, huh? Let's see here. Well, what is it called? A pitman arm or whatever, and it goes into there, and that would explain steering that side. And okay, that's a link that goes over here to steer this side. And the sway bar is up here, right there, way up in there. And where is the thing that releases what releases the sway bar from bondage so it can flop loose and increase your front end travel? Oh boy, I think that's part of that somewhere. Well, I'm beat. I'm beat. This is far more intelligent than I am. And to think it's a very, very old technology when you think about it. Oh, wait a minute. Now this box here's a motor. No, wait a minute. What the? Maybe I should just shut up. God, I can't figure out any of this. Well, here's our, that's our oil pan, and it is unprotected. However, there's no skid plate or anything else over the oil pan, but it feels like it's heavily reinforced metal, and it's very high up, so I don't think you have anything to worry about in the least about that getting pranged on a rock or anything. Well, what the heck is this thing? I mean, I can't help but be curious because it's my nature. Well, anyway, that's the rest of our front suspension, and what's really wild here is when you think about live axles, you never think about constant velocity joints or constant velocity boots. But that is a rubber constant velocity boot. So they've done something with the front drivetrain that I don't particularly, well, I guess it's just sealing. Those are normally open and you have to lubricate them frequently on a live axle front end setup because the wheel has to be able to turn back and forth as well as going forward under power because it's being powered by the live axle. So it looks like what they've done is they've just tightened that up and protected it additionally by having that, by having this cat come and check everything out. Hey, Feeny, what you doing, girl? So anyway, we got a lower link, this big, stout, impressively stout, in fact, lower link. And I don't see any kind of an upper link on this, this suspension either. So they just don't like those upper links, or I can't find them. So it's suffice it to say, it's incredibly sturdy. I mean, you're not going to have problems not having an additional upper link. At least I don't think so, but I know how you people are. You can figure out a way to break anything. Anything. All right, then. I think we've seen enough. But that's your amazingly sophisticated yet incredibly archaic suspension system on this Jeep Wrangler 4 XE. Let's move on, shall we? Well, gee whiz, that was complicated. Here's something that's real straightforward, your asking price. As you can see, the total is $69,780. We have all kinds of wonderful things on it, including leather seats and all that good stuff I told you about. And this is like pretty much as loaded as a Rubicon can get, he said laughingly, because there's always more you can put on a Jeep. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Well, I tell you what, all Jeep adventures must end with a trip home. But it was fun. It's an interesting vehicle, this plug-in hybrid. I was only able to manage about 20 miles per gallon with it. But that's me, and I plugged it in two times, 3 times, I don't remember how many. But bottom line is you'll get a lot better mileage than you will just with the ordinary gas-powered Jeep, and that's kind of what they're all after. So anyway, thanks for coming with me. I wish you health and happiness. And if you think about it, come see us next time. We're always happy to see you.